Alrighty. Just like that, Hope. We're on.
We're on?
Yeah, we are on.
Awesome.
So we're here with Hope Tabak. It was Douglas previously, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. And, we had the beautiful Kumite Jiu-Jitsu out in, is it West Concord? Is that the suburb?
Yeah, Concord West.
Concord,
That's it.
West Concord, Concord West.
Same.
Same. Just talk right into that for me.
Okay.
And, I think I mentioned to you, probably a while back that I wanted to get you on and obviously to chat about life and chat about Girls and Gi and your jiu-jitsu journey and obviously Kumite and a whole bunch of different things, right?
Yep.
So where should we start? Should we start with a little bit of life, or do you want to start with jiu-jitsu? It's up to you.
Oh, wherever.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Where do you want to start?
Okay, let's start
Weird
with
question.
Yeah, it is a weird question. Okay, let's start because I'm curious about your jiu-jitsu journey, and I guess why I'm starting with the jiu-jitsu journey is I want to give Gase a shout out because as you just let me know, Gase got her black belt yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. We gave her a black belt at SWA yesterday, which is a really special moment.
Yeah, such a good person as well. So shout out to Gase, and really happy for you. But yeah, so let's start with your jiu-jitsu journey. Like, how did jiu-jitsu come into your life?
I started doing martial arts when I was a kid. My parents put me in to train like a mixed martial arts when I was 6.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and I did that, I don't know, for like probably about 8 years so as a kid, but included in that was some jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
And then as a teenager, I went away and stopped training, and then when I wanted to get back into sports, that was the sports that I'd previously done.
Yep.
So I looked for like jiu-jitsu. And so I, when I went back, I didn't do the other martial arts, the karate and that sort of thing. I just went straight back into jiu-jitsu. That was when I was 16. I went and just started training jiu-jitsu at Gracie Baja in Manly and got my blue belt there when I was 16.
Wow.
And then stopped for a few years and then went back when I was 20.
Okay, got the blue belt blues.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I had some like knee injuries and just inconsistency, and like instead of just like rehabbing and going back to training, I just kind of quit jiu-jitsu for a few years, and then as an adult, like when I again wanted to get into some kind of sport or exercise, that was the sport that I'd done. That was all I knew in regards to sports. So I looked for a jiu-jitsu gym and got involved, and then been training ever since.
So was there a particular reason why, out of all the sports your parents could have thrown you in, they chose to do martial arts?
I don't really know. My parents, I think they started both training in martial arts.
Oh, really?
And I think they just really enjoyed it, and they put the family in to do it.
Okay.
And so I just did it. Yeah.
And then, so do you have any siblings?
Yeah. I've got 2 sisters and a brother.
Family of 4.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 sisters and a brother. So I've got 3 girls and one boy as my kids as well. So curious, what was that dynamic like growing up? Like, what's the age gap between you guys?
So my older sister's 12 years older, so we've got quite a gap. And I've got a brother who's 18 months older, and then my younger sister is 5 years younger. Yeah, so 5
years younger.
Yeah. Okay. So between my younger sister and my older sister, 17 years. Yeah, so it's quite a bit. Yep.
So was the older sister kind of like a pseudo mum in that regard?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. She really looked after us a lot. She was good. She was great to us. Yeah. Yep. She was, but then she moved out of home when she was around 18, I think.
Yep.
So we were quite young then. So we obviously missed her a lot, but she went on and did other things with her life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you still keep in contact with her now?
Yeah, definitely. I keep in contact with all my family.
Yep. Yeah. So girl, boy, girl, girl. That's the same order that what I've got. So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
And then so what was So did you grow up on the Northern Beaches or?
No. I grew up in the Blue Mountains.
Blue Mountains.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then moved to Sydney when I was like 15, 16.
Oh, wow.
And then I was actually living in an apartment with my mum in Alexandria, and then just started because we had a connection with Marcelo from Gracie Baja through the karate gym in the Blue Mountains.
Oh, wow.
Because when Marcelo first came to Australia and didn't really have much network, he was coming up to the Blue Mountains and doing jiu-jitsu seminars there on the weekend. And so that's how I kind of got introduced to jiu-jitsu and got involved with jiu-jitsu. So after we moved to Sydney and I wanted to find a place to train, he was my contact. So I contacted him and then ended up just commuting to and from Alexandria to Manly.
Wow.
To train jiu-jitsu, yeah.
So How'd you get there? That's because it's basically
I
you
think it
take
was
the
like
train and then the ferry.
rode a
or something?
bike. Like I had my bike, so I rode bike, and then it was like train and ferry. I think. Yeah.
We got it. Like,
It was a
nobody could
mission.
question your commitment
Yeah, it was a mission. It was probably like an hour and a half each way.
to do a 1 hour class.
Yep.
Oh wow!
Yep.
But that's like
Yeah, but I was
3.5
pretty
4
keen.
hours a day.
Yeah. I was keen. I was young. I was like 15, 16, and then you know what it's like when you get the jiu-jitsu bug and you just want to train and you just make it happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. So then, growing up in the Blue Mountains, what was that like? Like, do you have any fond memories?
The Blue Mountains is a very pretty place. I think it would be a nice place to retire, but I don't recommend it growing up.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, you know, it's probably changed quite a bit now, but especially when I was growing up there, it was like there's not a lot there. It's very cold. Everything kind of shuts early. When I was living there, like we don't have any shopping centre. There was no even movie cinema until I was a teenager. There was kind of like just not much. So there's not much for the kids to do except for kind of get into mischief. And that's what you see like a lot up there. But yeah, it's like it's pretty to go and visit, but there's not much offered for young people at all.
Yeah. And so then, I guess out of curiosity, then what was it like at school? And like, you know, when you say kids were getting up to mischief, like what were they like getting into partying and drugs or something?
Yeah, a lot of drug problems in the Blue Mountains. I believe it's like the ice capital of Australia.
Oh,
like,
wow.
People think it's beautiful, and it is like on a superficial level, but there's huge drug problems in the Blue Mountains, and a lot of that sort of stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, I guess so to sort of talk about schooling, like what kind of kid were you at school? Like, what would your primary teachers have said about you?
Primary school, I think I liked primary school. I loved primary school. I was in the smart class. What was it called? The opportunity class or something.
In the OC class.
The OC class.
Yeah.
So I always did really well. Was an A grade student. High school was a different story. Like I got bullied quite a bit in high school and had lots of issues with different groups of friends, and kind of got bullied because I was doing well in classes. So I would then intentionally not do well.
Yep.
So like I got bullied because I'd always be like sort of top of the class. So on my tests, I'd intentionally do badly so that I would fit in and be kind of like C grade level with everybody else.
Yep.
So I found high school pretty hard. Definitely didn't enjoy it.
Did your teachers pick up on that though?
Yeah, I remember having teachers pull me up being like, I actually know that.
You know the answer to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then like, how did you, do you remember how you responded when they sort of, you're just like,
I don't really remember. I think I would have just lied. I would have been like, no, that's, brushed it off. And just trying to fit in. For me, high school was just really trying to fit in a lot, which I think is like not a great thing. It's really kind of crushes you as a person if you're trying to, trying to fit in, trying to people please. Yeah.
I think it's really hard as well because every kid, everyone goes through this, right? Like at that schooling age where, as you're growing up, like your parents are your world, like your parents and your brothers and sisters are your world, and then you go to school, and then it's like now your friends sort of become more of your world, depending on if your parents are busy. Like my parents were always busy, so then it was like I was always hanging out with my friends, kind of a thing.
Yep.
Right. And then when they become your world, then it's like, well, you don't really know. Like it's hard to sort of say because they're your friends, you can't really make an objective assessment to go and say, are these people actually good for me or bad for me?
Yeah.
Because I think, when we become an adult, then we obviously realize that if people if you're having to dumb yourself down, so to speak, to please other people, that's not a great relationship to be in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. I think you hit the nail on the head with it when you say that, when they become your world, especially like my parents, they ran multiple businesses, so they were busy all the time. Like kind of we wouldn't see them a lot. Sometimes they were at work really early and then they'd come home quite late from work. So it was just like your friends become your world. You're with them all the time. And as I find teenagers, they don't have like a lot of foresight. They can't see like, things will get better, or there's a future and there's things I want to do in the future. It's all about like now, what's happening now. And if you have like fallouts with friends or things going wrong with friend groups, it's literally like your world is sort of falling apart, and that's your safety barriers aren't there. Like, so I over the years I've developed definitely different ideas about schooling. Like school wasn't great for me. School wasn't great for my daughter either. So we actually homeschool now.
Yep.
Like I really believe that you know, kids are supposed to have their family as their world. Like they're supposed to have that safety net. They're supposed to be built up, like supported, loved until they're mature, and then you send them out into the world. Like I don't agree with the whole thing about sending them out so that they're, you know, around other people more than they are with their family, so that they're taught to, you know, to build resilience. I think like they build resilience by feeling like safe and growing up in a safe environment and then being able to go out. Yeah. Yeah. So we do the homeschool thing now. Yeah. It's a lot better. Yeah. Well, happier people.
It's it's funny because like, I think, you know, as a parent, you know, when you see like when your kids are like at that toddler age, right? And you see them like they're always looking and trying to check if you're there looking after or watching them, right? And so I see this with my youngest at the moment because she's now hitting that 1.5 year mark where it's like she'll like wander off a little bit and stop, look back, see if I'm still there, and then, you know, if she's worried, she comes back, but then otherwise then she'll like keep exploring. Yeah. Right? And, you know, it's funny because, you know, we sort of look at that when it's kids and we go, oh, that's really cute, right? But then they get to a certain age, it's like, you know, just go away, you know, like we'll just send you away, you know, like we want you to, you know, we need a break kind of a thing. Because, yeah, it is very tiring, you know, especially like, you know, the kind of demand that kids put on people as parents. And so, you know, I think a lot of people probably, they get used to this idea of, oh, okay, well, you know, you don't necessarily, you know, you're trying to outsource things. But I think, you know, ultimately the best person that your kids can learn from is obviously you as a parent, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm of that sort of opinion, like, you know, like why would I have had kids if I want to have somebody else raise my kids?
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, my kids are still in school. Or like we're not homeschooling at the present moment, but it's kind of like one of those things where I've said even like to my 8-year-old, I've said to her already, it's like, you know what, you know, Cadence, one day you're gonna like come home and you're gonna think that like daddy and mummy are like the dumbest people in the world, and that we don't know anything, and that for whatever reason your friends might know better or whatever it may be. And like I just try and like signpost a lot of these things so that, you know, when it does happen, then I can turn around and say, oh, you remember like daddy told you about this? You know, like I have this like sort of opinion, it's just my opinion in terms of how I raise my kids, but like if my kids are asking questions about things, like, you know, they asked, like my daughter came home one day and she asked me about swear words. And then I was like, okay, what do you know? and then she'd like tell me the words that she'd know. And like some of them were wrong, like she pronounced them wrong and things like that. And I'll be like, all right, well, because you brought it up, like let me tell you what they are, right? So that you know that they exist. And then let me explain to you why we don't use them on a regular basis. And then you've got a choice, right? Like you can see like, you know, mummy and daddy don't use them on a regular basis. So, you know, even though these words exist, it's just like, you know, so the point that I tried to make to her is that bad things exist in the world, but just because other people do bad things doesn't mean that you have to do bad things, right? Like that was the sort of tack that I have sort of approached to, I guess, that influences my parenting style is like, if my kids ask me, you know, how babies are made, well, I'm not gonna give them a bullshit reason. I'm gonna tell them like exactly, like not graphically, but like, you know, I think the analogy I used to my 8-year-old and my 6-year-old was something along the lines of, you know, if you look at the PowerPoint, you know, and there's a plug and there's a socket, right? You put the plug in the socket, you turn the electricity on, and there's a baby. That's the analogy that I use, right? I guess, you know, when you sort of think about that in terms of how your parents, you know, your relationship with your parents was because they were so busy, and in comparison, you know, you sort of done the opposite with your relationship with Mia, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Am I right in sort of saying that, or?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think that's what we generally try to do, right? We see what went wrong with us, and then we try to do the opposite of that on the next generation, and hopefully, like, remove a little bit more of that, like, you know, like create less issues for the next generation. That's the idea. Yeah, but like I feel like people, like your analogy where or your story where you're talking about, like, you know, your 1.5-year-old and they take a few steps and they look to see if you're there for safety. I feel like people with when kids start to get older or they're teenagers, they think that it's just like, because they're physically capable of looking after themselves. Sure, they can get around public transport, they can cook, they can do stuff for themselves. So I think they're fine. But actually, I think they still need that that emotional support and safety barrier. They still need to be able to look back and say, you know, has someone got my back? Is mum and dad still in my corner? Like, they need to be able to not go too far. They need to be able to have that safety, and the safety obviously, you know, the barrier obviously stretches as they get older, but it still definitely needs to be in place for them. I think it's so important, like that emotional support for young people and just being present. For me, the main thing with my daughter is like, you know, I know I'm going to make mistakes, definitely have made a lot of mistakes, but as long as I'm present, if I'm present, like I'm with her every day, I'm present, I'm available, it's like I feel like that kind of outweighs a lot of like the mistakes and the bad stuff. As long as you're present in your kid's life and they have that then emotional support, even if it's not perfect, it's, you know, it's there. It's I think that's for me always been the main thing, or the thing that I've discovered has been like the most impactful in my daughter's life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of parents struggle with that, you know, but especially I'm guilty of this too. Like if I've got like a deadline or something in terms of work, and then it's like, you know, they come home or I come home and then I'm still in that work mode. You know, like even my wife said to me the other day, "Oh, you're in a bad mood." And I'm like, when I thought about it, I was like, "No, I'm not in a bad mood. I'm just like, you know how like you have almost like different parts of your personality in different places, right?"
Yeah.
So when I'm working, I'm a very like A type personality. I'm like, get the job done, like, you know.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like nowadays, because, you know, like I want to have more time at home as well, right? Like I'm blessed in the sense I've got that flexibility, but at the same time that I don't have that third space to between traveling, like, you know, I'm not really commuting as much to get to and from work. So it's hard to switch off that personality to go back to being the home person, to be emotionally available and blah, 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 and not just thinking about, okay, what's the next task to be done? Okay, shoot, point, shoot, go, and do that, right? When it came to like your relationship with your parents, so with them working so much, and the reason why I'm curious about this is because my parents were the same. My parents ran their own businesses, and you know, we would eat dinner quite late. It was just me and my brother. Like, you know, I've only got one older sibling, but he was 7 years older than me, so he probably did the majority of looking after me for a lot of that time. But I guess, what did you find it difficult to connect with your parents, like on like to talk about certain things?
Oh, as I got older, definitely. I think when I was younger, it was a lot easier, but like high school onwards, it was kind of impossible. Yeah. I just felt very disconnected with my parents. Like they would be, like I said, working really late. I'd be at home, or like I'd make food, or I'd make food for my younger sister. But I could also just kind of go out. I could kind of do what I want, and they wouldn't really even know where I was a lot of the time. And then they'd come back and you know, get annoyed at me for something trivial, and it was just like a lot of disconnect and like a lot of not understanding. It's like I can go out and do this and do like, you know, naughty stuff, but then I get in trouble for like something small at home, but they'd have no idea about the difference in between. So there was like such a big disconnect there that definitely even trying to talk about things in my life was very difficult. Yeah, which I just didn't talk to them.
Yeah, it almost becomes easier to not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like, and the reason why I was curious about that is because, yeah, even like with my own personal relationship with my parents, right? It's like there are things that I just don't bother telling my mum about because I'm going to get mothered. Like she will just be like, "Oh, don't do that," or "Don't do this," or "That's dangerous." And it's like, "Mum, I'm a 40-year-old man. Like I'm not, you know, the little boy anymore that, you know, you can baby." Like it's like, if I needed your opinion on that, like it's a bit late, like, because I've already done it.
Yeah.
Right. So it becomes, it's an interesting one because I feel like, yeah, as kids grow older, it's like your relationship with your children has to change as well. Like it has to mature and develop, where it goes, like, not to say that you're not still their parent, but also it's like you have to develop a different kind of relationship where it's also you have this friendship with them so that they feel like they can confide in you and tell you all the things that are going on in their life, right?
Absolutely. And I honestly think that just comes by being present, spending time with someone. I don't think you can be away from somebody for long periods of time and then come back and try to manufacture that. It's like you have to be regularly present. And it is for sure, for most people, a bit of a struggle. For me, I just prioritize doing that. Like one of the initial reasons I started working in gym, so I started training jiu-jitsu again. I was like 21, so I had Mia when I was 20. I was 21 and back into jiu-jitsu. And I got offered a job in the gym and I was like, well, yeah, can I bring my baby? Can I bring my daughter? And they were like, it was Mario. We were at Gracie Oceania at the time, which is now my BJJ, and he was really cool about it. He's like, yeah, bring your daughter. You can train. You can hang out. And it was like, well, if I'm going to work, this is what I want to do. I don't want to send my daughter to daycare. I want to have her with me. So this, I only have to kind of work a few hours at a time as well. So I kind of just structured my life around prioritizing, what I wanted to do and be present, being present for my daughter. So for me, that was a priority, and I just made a lifestyle out of it, and that's why we do homeschool now as well. But I get for a lot of people that's difficult. But I guess you got to just what you prioritize most is, what you're going to do in life.
Yeah.
I guess. And it's going to be easier if there's, I did a lot of that as a single parent as well, Ari came into the picture when Mia was 6, so between that was mostly single parenting. Mm-hmm. But I still prioritize the being present. But I guess if you've got 2 parents, it's going to be a little bit easier because you don't both need to be present all the time. Somebody can be working more, and I guess in a more traditional gender roles is going to be the dad working more and the mum being at home nurturing more. And I guess there's going to be a little bit of differences in how different couples work that out. But yeah.
Or you axe yourself like me and you have 4 kids and you're outnumbered no matter what you do.
Yeah, easy for me to say this just having one, but when you got 4.
Even all my high school mates, I had dinner with a couple of my high school mates the other night, and they're just 4 kids. How do you do it? I've been stopped in Woolworths before. I was just wheeling the pram and had the 3 kids around me. And this other dad was coming the other way, and he's touched me on the arm. I've just looked at him what's going on here? And then he's like, sorry, mate, I got to ask you, are they all yours? And then I'm like, yeah. And then he's just like, mate, how do you do it? He's like, and he had 2, and he was just like, I've got 2, and I don't even know how I do it. And I'm like, yeah, you just do. You don't think about it.
Yeah, just get on with it, huh?
Yeah, get on with it. I think that I guess that goes to the A-type personality, right?
Yeah.
I don't think about it. It's just
just do it.
Yeah, you just do it. And then, I'll probably debrief at some point in my life and realize I've made, I know I've made plenty of mistakes, but at the same time, it's you make the best of what you can. Everyone has to play, the deck of hands or deck of cards that they've been given, right? Mm-hmm. And so then you just make the best of it, and you try and hopefully your kids end up being that's what I've actually said to my son. I was you're all I want is that you one day are just better than me as a person, and you're better than me at anything that you want to do. That's the goal. And even for my girls,
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't want you guys to be worse than or have a worse life than what I've had. I want you guys to have a better life. But what does that mean? That doesn't necessarily mean that in the monetary sense. But if I can raise them right, and so that they understand that they can find peace within themselves, so to speak, then I've done a good job. Because in Chinese culture, there's this thing about and I think in any culture they talk about generational curses, right?
Generational trauma.
Yeah, right. And so the thing in Asian cultures was you could have one generation that builds a lot of wealth, and then you have one generation that the next generation that the kids are raised fairly well, and they manage to maintain that wealth. But then the generation after that is because the people that in that second generation didn't have to work as hard, and all they had to do was to maintain it. A lot of the lessons that were learnt in generating the wealth is lost, and so then they don't educate the next generation as well, and then they end up squandering it. Yeah, and it's just one of those things that I guess it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, if I won't be alive when my great grandkids are around, right? It probably won't matter 2 bits to me, but at least it might matter to my kids, or it might matter to their kids. And if that's the impact that we can have, well, that's a fairly good impact anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, generational trauma, generational curses, it's so real. It's I think that's the whole goal of parenting, is to remove those.
Yeah.
Remove whatever trauma you've got and not pass it on. And I think once you become an adult, and especially a parent, it's you're responsible to deal with your shit and to clean up yourself, and not pass it on, because there's always going to be everybody has trauma, everybody's got issues.
Yeah.
But we just have to be intentional about not passing it on, and then intentionally passing on the good lessons. Yeah, so that the future generations are ideally better and healthier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones where it's if everyone in the world just decided that they weren't going to be an asshole, then there wouldn't be any assholes in the world, right? Like, but it takes that personal accountability. Like, I can't control whether somebody's going to be an asshole or not, because I'd be the asshole trying to enforce what I believe onto somebody else. But I can choose to be a good person myself, and then if everybody made that individual choice to be a good person, then we just have all good people.
I think the thing is, though, that nobody's trying to be an asshole. Like, I mean, like maybe you got 1% are trying to be assholes, but the other 99% are literally trying to be good people. Yeah. But according to like the information and the lessons and that they have, you know, we perceive somebody as an asshole, but they perceive themselves generally as being in the right or doing the right thing. And I think that the thing is that we have to get to a point where we can look inside ourselves and identify like the behavior patterns that are making us assholes, and then try to change it, you know, because it's like, it's not just as simple as like, oh, I'm not going to be an asshole, because guarantee there's a lot of people that think that I'm an asshole when I've actually thought that I've been, you know, right or the better person in the situation. So it's about like, I think we just have to be constantly taking accountability for ourselves as humans and looking at our behavior and then always trying to improve. And I think there's no kind of end to that.
So can I ask you on that then? For you, you know, when did you start to, or what, I guess, was there a catalyst for you to start thinking about yourself in that particular way as well? Like to sort of...
Lots of catalysts over the years. Yeah, definitely. But like, I'm somebody that I am always trying to improve as a person. Like I've got heaps to work on, and I'm nowhere like near. I wouldn't even call myself a good person, but I'm a lot further than I was, you know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And I think that's like, sorry, back to the question, is there a catalyst? I think there's a lot of catalysts. Like for me, having a daughter was a big catalyst. It's like, again, trying to learn how to not do the wrong thing by her, trying to not pass on, you know, what my parents passed on to me. And then that gets you thinking about yourself and questioning yourself. You know, meeting my husband, Ari, and then actually learning how you need to treat another person properly, how to speak properly to another person, and like when you're upset and like this sort of stuff. If you want like a relationship that's healthy and robust and lasts, you actually have to look inside yourself and be like, what part am I playing here? What problems am I causing? Like, what are my issues that I need to fix? So I think, you know, relationships are what really, probably the main thing that really pushes ourselves to look inwards. The other thing for me that really pushed me to look like inwards and hold myself accountable is my health. I've had like over the years, like I've really struggled with like chronic autoimmunity.
Oh wow!
Which is now in remission. Has been in remission for quite a while, but I went through hell with that. I went through, 10 years of like crippling autoimmunity.
Wow!
And we can talk more about that if you want, but
yeah.
Going on to the, looking at changing myself, what I actually found is like trauma and like anger and stress is actually a huge part of health. If you're holding on to a lot of stress, like it's very hard for your body to heal and get better. So I actually I worked very extensively with a health coach, Jordan Briggs. You can look him up on Instagram, very, very good. But his main sort of thing is like emotional healing and trauma healing. So I really kind of deep dived on that with him and found there was like a bunch of stuff that I was still like patterns and behaviors I was holding on to that I kind of like learnt as I was growing up that I needed to change in order to, relax and actually be able to move past disease. Yeah, so there's like a few like big milestones there, I guess.
Yeah. So, okay, I will touch on those milestones. Like what I wanted to ask you next was, so at the end of high school, or like when you were sort of going through high school, did you have any idea what it is that you wanted to do for work or in life? Did you have any goals like when you were finishing high school and things like that?
Not really. I don't think so. So like when I like finished high school, I wanted to study more, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was quite a new Christian at the time. So I became a Christian when I was 17. And I was like, well, there's nothing else that I'm really interested in at the moment. So I enrolled in a degree in theology, and I studied theology, because I'm like, if I'm interested in, in God, I'm interested in Christianity, I'm interested in religion, I want to study it all. So I did bachelor in theology and then majored in classical history. But I forgot the question.
Oh, yeah, like, did you have any goals or like, what you wanted to?
Goals. Yeah, so
achieve?
I didn't really have a goal. I just wanted to learn and study more. So I went and I did that degree, and then still kind of didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't actually use that degree for anything except for just to learn. And then I wanted to, I had my daughter at 20, and then I wanted to get back into exercise. So I, again, just defaulted to jiu-jitsu and then just enjoyed working in jiu-jitsu ever since then. So there was no goal, but that's where I ended up.
Yeah. So what was the reason you found Christianity at 17? Like, what was there something that happened, or you just were your parents religious at all? Or?
So my grandparents were, and are Christian. My grandparents were Anglican ministers for over 40 years.
Wow.
So we had, there was quite a a strong Christian tradition in from my dad's side of the family. And my dad was a Christian. My parents, so when I was born, were both Christian, and they were kind of very devout and involved in the church until I was about 8, and then they left the church. They're still Christian in belief, but very much I'd say more nominal Christian now.
Non-practicing.
Yeah, non-practicing, especially my mum. So they kind of went away. But for me, I had that background in the back of my mind. So I went through school and high school not living as a Christian or not practicing, but I had a general belief in God. And then through my teenage years, like I said, I don't want to go into too much detail, but got in a lot of trouble. Skipped heaps of school, got quite involved in drugs and other things as well. Got to a point of being really over it, just over this lifestyle of bad friends and drugs and smoking weed and all this sort of stuff. And I was 17 at the time. And my dad was living, so I was living in Sydney by this point. I was training jiu-jitsu, but my dad lived in Cairns. Actually, I had been training jiu-jitsu, but still kind of just, going out with friends on the weekend, drinking and just not living a very good lifestyle. And then I had issues with my knees and just kind of threw jiu-jitsu to the side. I'm not going to do that anymore. I can't train, knee injuries. And then did a whole drastic life change. I'm I'm over this life. I don't want to be like this anymore. Moved up to Cairns with my dad. And then just started walking past, I got a job in the local cafe and just started walking past this church every day on the way to work. And it was just in my head all the time. Every day I walk past and I'd be I actually really want to go check that out. That's, something I want to check out for myself. And eventually went into the church, really felt I encountered God in quite a significant way. And never looked back from there. Gave my life to Jesus and that was it. Yeah.
Wow. Out of so, and this is just me reading it to tell me if I'm wrong, right? But I'm guessing your parents separated or something.
Yeah, they separated. They separated when I was about 15.
Yep.
Yeah. So my dad moved to Cairns because he has a lot of family there, and my mum just moved to Sydney from the Blue Mountains.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did that? I guess have you done much reflection on how that impacted you as a teenage girl?
I feel it didn't impact me very much by that stage. I feel there was we had so much family trauma and drama by that stage, and I didn't have much relationship with my parents by that stage at all, that it was it just didn't really faze me by that stage. Yeah.
There's too many other wounds on top of it. That was superficial in comparison to all the other ones.
Yeah. It was just another that's what we're doing now. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always an interesting one because for people that have had those really profound experiences with religion, it's you can't really describe it to somebody unless they themselves have experienced something like that.
Yeah.
You can sort of talk about it and people might be oh yeah, I'd love to experience that kind of a thing, but then they don't really know how it's almost it's a very heavy thing to happen because when it happens you can't ignore it.
Yeah, I find God encounters you and speaks to you in a very personal way.
Yeah.
It's not he like people hear like, I mean, in the Bible, yes, but I think nowadays, we're not just going to hear like a voice from heaven and some lightning and then be like, oh yeah, I believe now. But for me, it's much more real than that anyway. It's like, it's very personal. It's like the things that I'm actually going through in my life, and God turns up in those moments. Like you have people really unexpectedly contact you or talk to you about something you're thinking about, or, you're reading from the Bible and it's speaking like very specifically into your situation. Like, and that's, where I encounter God. Was in like just a very like not a good place in myself at the time, and just God was on my mind all the time, and I believe that's just God calling out to me, telling me that this is the way you need to go now. And went into the church, and really felt like I encountered God then.
Did that feel like a weight off your shoulders?
Oh, definitely. Like weight off my shoulders, instant lifestyle change. Like went from going in one direction, doing a 180 and going the other direction, and then actually wanting to be a good person, or actually having some ambition and wanting to, have a good life. And it's been up and down along the way. Like I've definitely not been like a good Christian, but it's an uphill battle sometimes, but you're always learning, always getting better. And like I said, like I'm definitely better than I was 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, it's one of the things I always love saying is like, there's that passage in the Bible that, God has come so that you can live life to the full, right? It doesn't promise you a good life, a full life, right?
Like
and a full life, is like a life of ups and downs, because you can't have all ups because you just wouldn't appreciate them. You just, like if all you knew was happiness, like that's new baseline state is just happiness. Well then, like, technically you don't know any other emotion. Like you basically have zero emotion because you've only got one. You need to have the ups and downs, the peaks and troughs to really appreciate exactly what you've been given. Yeah. Because that is the alternative. Like if you just, I guess in my mind, like if you do the thought experiment, if the alternative was that you just were never born, well then you just never experienced anything.
It's
right?
just indifference. Yeah.
Yeah, it's indifference, right? Like it's just nothingness.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the other thing is that like when we talk about like ups and downs in like, life, and, when we talk about like the Christian walk or the religious walk, it's like, I mean, depending on where you've come from or like how low you've come from, there's a lot of layers there that need to be dealt with. And I mean, I guess you can look at that in even not a religious way, but just anybody who's got like trauma or whatever, and you've got like, you can't fix everything all at once. It takes like a long time and a lot of, God needs to bring like a lot of different scenarios into your life for you to learn how to like, or relearn how to actually behave properly or actually become a better person. It's like, I had, my daughter, and then that's a learning experience. All right, now I need to learn how to be like, a more responsible person. And then, when I got married, it's like, oh, now I actually need to learn how to actually treat this person, in the right way. And it's like, you have to have like these different situations come into your life and then slowly strip away the layers. It doesn't all happen at once. So
there's a really great movie scene that comes into my mind when you're talking like that, and it's I don't know what the movie is, and I don't know why like Morgan Freeman is always playing a God type character, but it was Morgan Freeman in this particular scene, and he's like saying something along the lines of like, when you pray for something or when you ask God for something, he doesn't give you that thing on a silver platter. He gives you an opportunity for you to then achieve that goal that you're asking for. So like, it could be something like, if you pray for courage, he doesn't magically give you courage. He gives you a situation where now you've got a choice. Are you going to be courageous and step up or not?
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
I agree with that. Like, I don't think that there's like a prayer of mine that's ever gone unanswered. I've never, like, I don't get the things that I want a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But, you look back 6 months later, you're like, oh, actually, I was praying about that, and this is resolved in the most amazing way. Or like, these situations have come up and it's been resolved in a much better way than I could have hoped for. So, yeah.
So I want to ask about the autoimmune issues, if you're okay to talk about it, right? So curious, obviously, as to what was the issue that you had.
Yeah, okay. So I've not like publicly talked about this before, but I'm so happy to talk about it. People that are closest to me know like my health issues and struggles. But, I spent like over 10 years struggling with psoriatic arthritis.
Psoriatic arthritis.
So like psoriasis and arthritis, basically, yeah. But the arthritis is like in the large joints. So it would get so bad, it was like I couldn't bend my knees or my elbows, like basically couldn't walk. And I was on like really heavy meds for that, because it would be like the flare-ups could be as like every week. So you'd have like a flare-up could last like 3 or 4 or 5 days, and you'd have like 2 days of feeling kind of normal, and then you get another flare-up again. And I mean, this is all through like the last, you know, like I was trying to be a full-time athlete the whole time as well.
So what age did it start?
Started, so when I referenced like when I first quit jiu-jitsu when I was 16,
Yep.
and I had knee injury. It wasn't knee injury, it was arthritis in my knees. So it was like, that's when I first got it. Kind of like I had it, stopped me from training, went away and did other things, and it settled down over the years. But sort of in my early 20s started to really come back like aggressively. But it got to the point where I was on so many medications. Like I was on everything. I was on these biological injections like every second week, and like cytotoxins, so methotrexate, so many different medications just to be able to. And I did that. Like I'm always very like health like minded. Like I always think that there's a better way to do things. But at the time, I didn't know what the better way was. And I was like, I want to be able to train and compete. It's what I want to do at that point. So I just took the medication so that I was functional enough to just go out and compete and everything. So basically, all the comps you've seen me do over the last 12, 14 years, I was probably really sick at most of them.
Wow.
Yeah. But, like when I really started to look into actually fixing it was at the start of COVID. Because it's like, all right, I can't go and travel and compete now. Now's the time I'm going to like try and fix my health. So I took myself off all my medications, probably not like what you're advised to do, because you get really sick, which I did. And then I started from then going on like every different diet and every different like biohack and intervention, like you name it, I've probably done it. Like the first thing I went to, which was the worst thing, but it's the first like it's the information that the mainstream will give you when you start looking up like how do I fix these issues, is I went on a vegan diet.
Yep.
And it was like I've never been so sick in my life. I actually did it for 18 months and just dug myself into it like an autoimmune pit of hell. Like I was just...
It was worse, was it?
Yeah, so sick. Just so sick. I mean, obviously like lost heaps of weight, and no vegan can come to me and tell me it's because I didn't do it right.
Yeah.
Like nobody
You were
did
strict.
Nobody did the vegan diet better than I did it. Like everything was like whole foods, organic, soaked, sprouted, properly prepared. Like I did it down to a T. But as the time went on, I just got sicker and sicker. And then, I just always looking for different information. So then I found like Paul Saladino saying
Carnivore MD.
Carnivore MD. Total opposite, but a lot of people saying they fixed their autoimmunity with this. So I was like, all right, going from vegan for 18 months, went on carnivore, and within 2 weeks, my symptoms like had reduced by a lot. So I was like, oh, so there's something in this, you know? So I went full carnivore for quite a long time, and it helped reduce my symptoms a lot, but it didn't fix everything. So I was still quite ill, and I was so stubborn at that point that I'm like, I'm not going on medication. I'm done with that.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep, persisting until I crack this code for my health. So from then it was like, every like kind of biohack or intervention you can think of, I would have done it. Like saunas, ice baths, red light therapy, like lymph drainage, I don't know, anything, I would have done it. Every kind of different diet. And I was getting to the point where it was like kind of manageable, but still very ill and not able to really train and compete properly, which is what I really wanted to do. And then, I spent a lot of money on different health practitioners. So like, in the past, I'd spent years seeing like, the best rheumatologists and like, specialists. Absolutely sorry, but they know nothing. they all they can do is write a script and give you the medication.
Yep.
One of them I actually asked previously saying, can I have a referral for a dietitian, because, maybe there's something I can do that can just like reduce my symptoms a little bit. And he looked me dead in the eye and said, anyone with an education will tell you diet's not going to help you. And I was like, that just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
You're telling me to take these medications that are going to alter my body, but like food is chemicals as well. Like maybe there's something I'm allergic to. Like, I don't know. Anyway, so I went and looked. But I spent a lot of money on like different naturopaths and health coaches and stuff. I ended up finding a very good one. Again, name drop him again, look him up, Jordan Briggs. Dropped a lot of money with him, but you it's worth it if you invest in your finances. And what we did is we did like a lot of testing, so blood tests, stool tests, microbiome mapping, and just found that and there's a lot of root causes for these issues, right? So the diet helped me a lot. I was still on carnivore diet at that time, but there was a lot of things that needed to be fixed. There was basically intestinal bacterial imbalances that needed to be addressed. That's the main thing. That might not be the root cause. There's reasons why you get to these spots. A lot of the time it's because of trauma or bad lifestyle. This is generally the root causes. But once your gut gets to a certain state where you have all of these bacterial imbalances and leaky gut and all of these things, so we had to address that. We had to address all of the stress and the trauma, and then now I'm totally symptom free. Over 12 months, I'm totally in remission, and I don't touch medication, and I can eat normally as well. Pretty when I say normally, I eat as clean as you can possibly eat. I don't cheat, but I'm not restricted to carnivore anymore.
So you're back to eating vegetables and fruit and things?
Yeah, I don't eat all vegetables because a lot of them are GMO and they're not good for you to eat. So I'm very strict with what I actually eat.
Yeah.
But there are some vegetables and fruits and stuff included in what I do eat. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a garden at home? Do you grow your own stuff or?
No, I don't really. I just shop organic.
Yeah.
But through all of that as well, I was just studying the whole time. So I went and studied nutrition, and now I'm qualified nutritionist as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually then, because of that, practicing nutrition and health coaching as well.
Yeah, wow.
Which is cool.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. So something I'm getting into more and more.
Yep.
But it's it's been very important to me. But you literally I can't even emphasize how sick I was. I was bedridden half the time. There was 6 months. I'd have 6 months periods where I just couldn't train at all. It was bad.
Yeah.
But you can however bad your autoimmunity is, there's ways to fix it.
Well, that's I guess one upside of COVID, right? You had this time to sort of then invest in try and fix these
opportunities
things,
that
right?
make you look for answers. Yeah, totally. So there was that. But then health, just you get into health, you go down all the rabbit holes. You know. So now it's at the point of just remove all the toxins from my life. You got to filter your water.
Reverse osmosis.
That's what we do. Reverse osmosis. No additives in the food. Making sure you're not drinking out of plastic. No chemical cleaning products. We don't use any chemicals in the gym. We clean with tea tree oil and vinegar and essential oils. Does a great job, but you don't get sick.
Yep.
No body products that are toxic either. I work with Alchemical now.
Yep.
Yep. Because
shout out to them.
Shout out to Alchemical.
Sponsors, right?
Again, health is very important to me, so that's why I work with Alchemical. All of their stuff is totally non-toxic. So they don't use plastic. They don't use polyester. Everything's made with organic bamboo, cotton, and hemp. So what you wear is huge as well. The skin is your biggest organ in your body. Yeah. So we're just removing the toxins everywhere.
It's a tough one. I think people would find it's very difficult to because you're exposed to so much, right?
Oh yeah.
When you think about it,
crazy. It's you can't not be exposed to stuff, but you have to just reduce your toxin load
as much as possible.
As much as possible. Yeah. Which is just more important as the years go on, because there's just toxins in absolutely everything, even in the air we're breathing. Yeah.
It's I reckon that the air one is one that we all take for granted, because it's so when we were living in an apartment, the floor of the balcony would just be like when we were 5 stories up, but you give it a week and the floor it's black, right? If you walk outside without wearing anything on your feet, you'd have to wipe your feet, because the floor is just black, and it's well, is that exhaust? Is that brake dust? What is it? It's something that's obviously in the air that's just settling. And so if you're outside, even in any part of the city, right, you're breathing all that stuff in. There's no way around it, right?
Yeah, there's no way around it.
Unless you want to live in the Blue Mountains.
Still going to get some of it. But it's in everything.
Yeah.
You got to just remove it as much as possible.
Mm.
Yeah. But I guess for most people, if I talk to them about health stuff, they just, you're just this crazy health person.
Yeah.
But I think for most people, you've got to get to the point where you're you're very sick and you're very desperate, actually realize that, oh, actually this stuff is, it's not good. But it's important. Like we're talking about our kids and wanting to pass on better habits to our kids. Like what better habits, You've got to teach them, like, if you go down this road, you're going to end up sick. And, like in the West now, in Western countries, autoimmunity is as much as like 1 in 3 or 4 people. Like it's huge. It's getting worse all the time. Like how many people like we've got, suffering with like cancer, heart disease, all of this stuff. Like these are all lifestyle diseases. You know? This is all lifestyle diseases is the main killers. If we can remove
as much as possible,
learn how to live healthy, teach our kids that so that they don't have to go through all of this and try and learn all that for themselves later.
I'm a little bit curious about what were some of the I don't know if it was techniques is the right word, but like when you were working with Jordan, just in relation to like the emotional component, right? Was there like things that he would get you to do, or like how do you work through the emotional component when it comes to that sort of stuff?
So basically, like you have like what we call like shadow behaviors, right? So you have like behaviors and like stress that you carry, but it's generally been like it's been learned from past, usually from traumas and stuff. It's like your ego, when you have like these kind of behaviors come up or stresses come up, it's your ego trying to protect you from something. So like you learn these things as you grow up and as a child, right? So you go through a bad situation and you're like, you learn, oh, I need to protect myself from that. So anytime a similar situation comes up, you'll automatically go into that fight or flight like in response to that. And that can be good. Like if we look at like teaching a kid not to touch a hot stove, once they touch something hot once, every time that they see something hot, they're going to have that immediate reaction, like, I'll pull away from that. And that's their ego protecting them from injury. But it can also be quite bad as well. If we have like trauma, we have like traumatic relationships or like major stressful events in our life, then it comes to the point of like every time something triggers that stress and those behaviors are going to come up. So when we're learning to deal with that, we actually have to dig back and be like, oh, what happened to me in my past that taught me to behave like this? And then when you can start to understand yourself and why you behave the way that you do and why you hold on to the stress, then you can actually start to let it go, because you can actually realize like, actually, hey, I'm safe. That happened to me and that wasn't good, but now I'm safe. I'm an adult. I've got like, safe boundaries around myself, and you can actually start to like let go of that stress and let go. But otherwise, like you literally get stuck in, and I'm sure everyone can kind of relate to this. You get stuck in fight or flight a lot of the time, like, which is like your body's just constantly in like a stress state. It's like situations come up, they trigger the fight or flight, you're constantly stressed. And stress, like, this is not even woo-woo. Like, medical doctor's going to tell you stress is like, a huge cause of disease.
Yeah.
It's so highly correlated. So we're holding on to that stress. It's very hard for your immune system to get out of that fight or flight and actually heal. So basically you have to look into your past a lot. You have to look into the things that are coming up or the triggers that are coming up and try and understand like why you behave like that.
Yeah, wow. Was that a long process? Like how long do you reckon that?
I spent about 6 months of work, like solid work, like I'm working with him every week doing that. I believe I still have work to do. Sometimes stuff still comes up and you're like, give him a call or a message. But like I more or less understand the processes now. So it's a lot easier to work through than it was before. But I mean, it just depends like, I guess what people's issues are and how much work they want to put in. But yeah, it can be a bit of digging. Yeah.
Do you do anything like journaling or anything like that?
I don't. I know like a lot of people recommend that. I don't.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's honestly was like just a lot of talking. Also did like a lot of meditation as well, which is just mainly like, I like using the Headspace app. I don't use it so much now, but they've just got great little like 10-minute meditations on there where you can just, calm, breathe, be present with yourself and kind of focus on one thing. So I did a lot of that sort of stuff, meditation. But yeah, mainly just the emotional work was mainly just actually like realizing like the root of the like emotional problems, like sitting with that, like really trying to feel into that and be like, all right, I understand why I feel that now. And then recreating the safe zone, like actually I'm safe, you know? I mean, and you see this is not so relevant to me, but a good like example I think that a lot of people could understand. Like you see this with like, you know, women with like, say, sexual assault and that sort of stuff. But what's going to trigger for them is like encounters with men then. And it's like, unfortunately, then they're going to feel unsafe. Those triggers are going to come up. They're going to, you know, start being like acting out in those situations when they're around men. But they'd have to go back and actually do a lot of work there to realize that they're then safe in their, you know, their present environment.
Yeah, well.
But yeah.
So then let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about jiu-jitsu a bit more.
Okay.
And competing. we as I said, I did tell you we get heavy and then we sort of like, you know, pull ourselves out of the hole.
Yeah.
So do you remember what was your first jiu-jitsu comp? And
I did comps when I was a kid. They were my first ones. I think I did 1999 Pan Packs as like a 9-year-old kid.
Yep.
Yeah. I think
How
that was
was
my
that?
first. I think I fought a boy, injured my rib, got taken down, injured my rib and hated the experience. But yeah, that was the first. And then, yeah, done quite a few since then. Not a lot as a kid, a few as a kid, and then went back, you know, in my early 20s to compete.
And like for you, like how did you sort of treat competition? Like what was your mental state when you think about competition? Like do you, were you doing it because you loved it, or did you do it because it was like a chance to like challenge yourself? Like what was, like
it was
the sort of
definitely the challenge. It was like, I'm very goal orientated. I feel like if I need a goal to be progressing, so I would always set competitions as goals. I've learnt to really enjoy competition, but I definitely didn't enjoy it for a long time. Like I think I never really enjoyed it, like in the beginning for years. It was stressful, caused me a lot of anxiety.
not good for the autoimmune issues.
No, not at all. That stress is like, it's a killer. But yeah, like, so years ago, I did like a lot of work with a sports psychologist as well. That helped my mindset a lot. Like I learned a lot of tools that I try to pass on to students as much as possible now when they're competing.
Yep. Do you mind sharing some of those tools?
Sure. So like just the ones, I'll share some of the ones that were relevant to me. And I think these are just kind of standard like psychology practices. It's not like rocket science, but I mean, I always tell people like, don't worry about being nervous. Like for me, in the early days of competing, I would worry about being nervous and try really hard not to be nervous and spend so much energy on that. By the time I got on the mats, I was just emotionally and like physically exhausted.
Yeah.
But so you have to like not worry about being nervous, like actually kind of try and enjoy being nervous, like embrace it, being like when you feel the nerves, be like, oh yeah, this means it's comp time. This is a good thing. This is my body doing what it needs to do. Like this is all good, positive, you know, reminding myself that I actually enjoy doing jiu-jitsu. Like no one's forcing me to be there. It's not a fight or flight situation. Like I'm not forced to be there. I can step off the mats anytime I want to, but I'm there because I enjoy it. So always trying to make it like a joyful event, not something that's like terrifying. But you're always going to feel nervous, but focusing on enjoying it. And the other thing is not overthinking. Like you going home for weeks before the comp and like trying to visualize the comp and like going over in your head all the things that could happen over and over again. Like your body doesn't know the difference of like whether you're there in reality or you're there in your mind. Every time you do that, you're going to have like adrenaline dump. You're going to have like, you know, cortisol. You're going to have all these like hormones and going on in your body that, again, by the time you get to comp day, you are going to be drained. You are going to be like literally physically fatigued, and it's going to be very hard to compete, right? So where you want to go, like you're not getting better as well by doing that. You're just making yourself tired.
Visualizing no good, or
yes, but not the visualizing that people do like in the couple of weeks before comp, where they're just going over, what if this happens? What if I lose? What if this happens? What am I going to do here?
Yeah.
Like visualize an actual proper game plan, maybe not so close to comp, but like just in those couple of weeks before comp, you do your training in the gym and you leave it there and you go home and you do something else. And if you're having trouble, not like hyper fixating on the comp, like get into gaming or something. Literally just do something
that forces you to take your mind off it.
And actually enjoy yourself. And actually you want to be relaxed. You don't want stress hormones in your body all of the time, because you will not perform well when you get on the mats, right? There's like practices you can do, like so that I used to do on comp day. Another one that the sports psychologist taught me is just like like naming things or counting things. Like if I'm stressing, I'm feeling really anxious and I'm having trouble not like worrying about that, it's just like I start counting the lights on the roof, be like 1, 2, 3, just something that forces you to be in the present moment, you know, or just start looking around naming things like there's a black bag, there's a white chair, there's a brown chair over there, you know. It's very simple, kind of silly seeming practices, but what that does is it gets you out of this other place, you know, futuristic place in your head into the present moment. And to perform well, you know, in any sport, you actually need to be present, right? We need to be focused and present. If your mind is elsewhere, you're not focused, you're not going to react well, your timing's not going to be great, right? So you want to just have these practices that where your head's not in the future thinking about like everything that can go wrong, you're focused and you're present in your immediate surroundings. Yeah.
I think I like smells for that.
Yeah.
You know, like I think smells really like, you know, they take you to places, right?
Yeah, that's good.
So like,
that's good.
you know, when I like KFC, so it's one of those ones where you know, when you smell KFC, you know, it's like one of those things. When you know, people know the smell of a hospital. You know, people, even certain like shopping centers have a smell, right? Like Subway has a smell, bakeries have a smell, like the smell of leather. You know, like there's a specific smell that takes you to certain places. And for me, I think, you know, one of the best ways to sort of make you present at anywhere is to like sort of take in the smell of like, what does this place smell like?
Yeah.
And it might smell like sweat and whatever else, but knowing what that smell is, then you can like really have that
present
moment. It brings you into the present moment, right? And like, I think, you know, sometimes, you can definitely see like people competing and it's like, they're not there mentally. Like it's like they might be there physically, but their mind might be on like, well, I'm going to go and eat XYZ tonight. Or, you know, you know what I mean? Like, or you're thinking, you know, or what are these people thinking about what I'm doing?
Yeah.
You know, versus actually just you thinking about what you're
just
doing.
Just doing it.
Yeah.
Just being present and doing it.
Right?
Yeah. I did the same, like similar thing with the smell, but with just feel.
Oh,
so if I'm in the, I'm there like rubbing the mats or the carpet, just feeling things. Because I'm not thinking about anything else then. I'm just, I'm just present in my environment. And then when you go to like touch hands, you're feeling somebody's gear, you're feeling their hands, you know, you're like, very present. Yeah.
So I wonder if that's like you know, the feeling thing is kind of interesting, you know, like even when you like rub your thumb and your finger together, like you get like this sort of, you know, there's a feeling to that, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes like I'll like lie down and I'll be like, I don't know, just like doing that and just sort of like just spacing out kind of a thing. But it's just like, you know, there's a sensation to that.
I think there's like a word for that.
It's probably called autism, but
I was going to say that, but then I was like, I don't know if we're allowed to say.
Anyway, so how did the whole your involvement with Australian Girls in Gi come about?
So Australian Girls in Gi is founded and directed by Jess Fraser, who's a very good friend of mine. We met each other, I think it was 2013, could have been 2012, but we met each other in competition. So we were rivals for quite a while. We fought a lot of times at a lot of competitions, and we just became really good friends through that. And I think at the time as well, like, you know, we were like blue belts and then purple belts together. And when we were purple belts, like there just wasn't many purple belts in the country. There was almost no black belts in the country. I think when we were purple belts, there was like 2 Australian black belts total. One lived in Vegas. There's Sophia Drysdale or McDermott. And one, Esther, was in Tasmania at the time. So you just didn't have access to higher belts. So what we found is like we were competing against each other, but we also wanted to compete internationally. So we ended up realizing that we were probably our best training partners. So we would fly. I'd fly to Melbourne. She was living in Melbourne at the time, or she'd fly to Sydney, and we'd help each other prep for comps. So we just became very close, like over the years with that. And naturally, like Australian Girls in Gi was her work or her like mission. The jiu-jitsu was like for women was very different back then. Like I said, we didn't really have belts higher than purple belt. It just wasn't really a thing. You didn't have most women were in a gym. Like I was in a gym where I'm like the only woman. You don't have female training partners. I would go to Melbourne from Sydney, or she'd come to Sydney to train. So Australian Girls in Gi was just kind of trying to fill that hole that was there, right? If you know, Jess was creating these events where we'd bring all these women together, and then you get like eventually we had like women coaching those events and stepping up into roles that weren't filled by women before. So, you know, so I became friends with her through comp. She invited me to a camp it was 2013. I went down, trained. I was like, you know, it was a great experience for me. And then over the years, she'd just invite me to more things. So I ended up starting to coach at some of the camps. I think started coaching at the camps when I was a brown belt, I think. And then we started running the competitions together as well, which is kind of like the main way I got involved in Australian Girls in Gi in the first place, was like running the comps. And again, that was just because we used to go to these competitions. Like back in the day, we didn't even get to see your registrations online. You'd hand in your piece of paper and your money, and you'd turn up on the day, and there'd be a piece of paper on the wall, and that'd tell you like who's in your division. And I'd go in at blue belt, and I'd look, and there'd be nobody in my division. It's cool. I paid the money. I prepped for the comp. I came here. There's no one in my division. So we created these round robin events where it's like, we will guarantee you all matches. We will charge you like nothing, like which we do charge, but they're very cheap. And we'll guarantee you like multiple matches, gi and no gi. So again, it was just trying to fill that, like that hole that was there. So the whole idea was just like creating these opportunities where women get to actually train with each other, which, you know, increases like the retention of female athletes. And then through that, creating opportunities where women get to actually work and coach and, you know, learn how to scorekeep, learn how to referee, like learn all of these roles and actually kind of fill that space, which again just helps to grow, like, you know, the number of women that are staying, like getting involved and staying in the sport. So that's how I got involved with Australian Girls in Gi, yeah.
Wow. And so how many years has that been going now?
So I should probably know this, but I'm not 100% sure when she founded it. It could have been 2010.
Okay.
But I really got involved in about 2013. Yeah, so I've been involved for like the last 11 years. Yeah, but Australian Girls in Gi, yeah, again, started a couple of years before me at least. Yeah. Yep.
And so then, you know, the turnout like over the years has obviously been increasing and increasing, right?
Yeah, I mean, in some respects it has, in some respects it hasn't. But as funny as it seems, like that's the goal. Like the goal, like Jess always said, is that Australian Girls in Gi would just become obsolete, like not needed, right? Because it's there to fill this hole. Like the events are there to fill, like, you know, the gaps. And we still run events, you know, and we'll keep running them as long as they're like wanted and appreciated by the community. So like the competitions are growing all the time. You know, we get up to like 150 women in the Sydney competition, which is really cool.
That's huge.
Yeah. I mean, the big camps that Jess runs, which they haven't run since 2020, since before COVID, but stay tuned because you're probably going to see them pop up again. You know, you get 150 women on the mats for those, so they're huge as well. But in between that, we've run heaps of little events, like open mats and little camps, and they're the ones that are like not growing in popularity, right? We still run them and they're still fun, but they're not needed as much, which is good because what we see in the community now is like all these other girls running open mats and running camps. And that's the goal. Like it's grown so much, like women's jiu-jitsu. Like if I go to a camp now and I'm like, who hasn't rolled with a black belt before? And nobody like puts their hand up, you know. But they're like, for me, that would have been unheard of. Like I never would have had the opportunity as a white belt to roll with a female black belt. But now it's like, you know, we have so many female black belts in the country and they're running events and they're running open mats. And that's good. Like we always say, go to all of these things, you know. It's not competition for us, it's the goal. It's to have, you know, women just stepping up in the community and creating more opportunities, and just for, you know, for there not to really need to be the need for us to
just becomes standard, right?
Yeah,
the norm.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Do you have any you know, you've obviously done quite a bit of travel with jiu-jitsu and you know, getting to experience a lot of different rooms and places. Have you got any funny or fond stories that you want to share? Could be bad ones as well.
I've probably got heaps off the top of my head. Maybe like, I'm sure probably most people like that know me anyway know this story, but don't ever break your foot in Abu Dhabi because they don't have crutches. And you can look it up. It's a thing that they just don't have crutches like readily available.
They don't have crutches.
They don't have crutches. So I don't know about now, but like at least in like 2014, 2015, there were no crutches in Abu Dhabi. So I broke my foot. I dislocated 2 toes and broke a bone
Ugh.
in my first match. I was purple belt at the World Pro. And there was just no crutches. I had Liv and Lockie Giles, because I was staying in the hotel room with Liv. They went all over Abu Dhabi, every like pharmacy, doctor surgery, like supermarket. They went to the hospitals. They're like, no, nowhere has crutches. They only have wheelchairs for inpatients at the hospital, but you can't just get crutches. So it's like, well, I'm here. I'm stuck here for a week. I don't have crutches.
You're hobbling around.
Well, yeah, I couldn't walk, and my foot was so swollen. I couldn't put any weight, and what am I supposed to do? Hop? And then they also have the thing where it's like there's no PDA, so like no public displays of affection between males and females.
Yep.
So we're there with all these like strong jiu-jitsu guys, but they can't help me, right?
Oh, because that would be seen as a PDA, really?
Yeah. Well, they can't like be carrying me. You're still not supposed to be holding hands, that sort of thing. So then the burden fell to Liv, who is like half my size. And she had to carry, she was staying in the same hotel room. So for every meal, she would have to come back up and get me and piggyback me down to the restaurant.
Yep.
And if we wanted to go anywhere, she would have to piggyback me. And then she was like at one point, you know what? I've got somebody who is going to be really good for this job. And she went and she got Demi Butler, who's like, I don't think she's so much in jiu-jitsu now, but she's, world champion. Like she was one of Australia's best females. She's doing rugby at the moment.
Wow.
But she's big. I don't want to like say, I don't know how big you are, Demi, like weight-wise, but she's a strong girl, She's not in the featherweight division. So she started coming to my room and carrying me everywhere. And actually we became like best friends for quite a while after that. But yeah, so I don't know. At the time I was like looking online on Reddit and it was like all these forums of how Abu Dhabi doesn't have crutches. So yeah.
That's pretty insane to think about, right? Like,
yeah. And
even
then
just a wheelchair,
year,
anyway.
the next year I actually went back and I stayed in the same hotel because it was like when you win the trials ticket and they put you in that same hotel, that Centro Capital. So I went back into that hotel, and when I was checking in, the staff were like, "Oh, we remember you. You were the girl with the broken foot." And they said, because of you, we now have a wheelchair inside the hotel. So if you break your foot again,
there you go.
Use the wheelchair. Yeah.
So if you break your foot again, almost like they're expecting you to break your foot.
So if you break your foot, stay at Centro Capital because they have a wheelchair ready for you.
Have they only got one though? That's the problem, right?
Maybe one.
Only one. And so the first person to get their foot broken gets it.
Yeah.
Not that you want to be racing to get your foot broken.
No, it's not ideal.
Do you have any favorite places that you've traveled?
Yeah. I love Japan. So much fun. But favorite places will be Europe, like Portugal. It's just like a fairy tale. I think coming from Australia where, like white European Australian, we don't have the depth of like history here. Like when you go over to somewhere like Portugal and you're walking around a castle that's over 1,000 years old, it's like, oh, wow. That's something I would see in a movie. It's like, it literally is like a fairy tale. So just wandering around the streets in Lisbon, for me, is like quite magical. Just looking at like the architecture and stuff that we just don't get to experience, like, like such a rich history in this country.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they'd be my favorites.
Portugal and Japan.
Yeah.
What do you like about Japan? Oh, actually, out of curiosity, food wise, what places do you think are the best? Country wise. Yeah. Because that would also be a hard thing, right? Especially if you went through these years of trying to be carnivore, trying to be vegan.
Yeah. I'm very picky with what I eat. So a lot of the time when we travel, I just go to the supermarket and I take like a little grill and I cook in my hotel room.
A grill?
Yeah.
Like, so is it a gas or
no,
coal?
Like electric.
Oh, electric grill.
Like a little, like George Foreman.
How big is, that's like,
small.
They're big. They're
no,
like
it's small. It's like, I don't know. It's small.
You got a tiny one?
Yeah, a little one.
Okay.
Yep. And I'll go and get beef and eggs.
And just cook?
Cooked beef, eggs, avocado, bit of fruit, like just eat clean most of the time. And then I might have like a couple of like cheat meals, but I mean for my cheat meals it's still not most people's cheat meals, but yeah. So that I'll go out and eat some things that are like, I consider like healthy enough to eat. But yeah, I generally try to avoid eating out a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you just don't have control over like
how it's been cooked and
how it's been prepared and what's actually in it. Yeah. So
what would constitute a cheat meal for you?
cheat meal, like I might go and get a burger, but generally I'll get it without the bread. But then it's kind of like what I'm eating at home anyway, like I eat beef patties or something.
Yep.
I might get like things that are like, so I'll avoid a lot of gluten if I'm out. Like I only eat it if like I've prepared it, like I make sourdoughs and things.
Yep.
So I'll get something that's rice-based, like a rice and a meat, or I love eating pho. Pho is great.
Yep.
You know, rice noodles and bone broth.
Yep.
All good. Yeah, so those kind of things.
When it comes to
Never anything fried.
Never anything fried.
No.
I was going to ask, like
Unless I made it myself and I fried it in tallow, then I'll eat it.
So you use tallow?
Tallow, yeah. Tallow's the
What
way.
about ghee? No ghee?
No, I think ghee's fine. I just don't personally use it. I love tallow. I cook everything in tallow.
What
Yeah.
what, I'm just trying to think because there's not really too many. What can you get tallow from the supermarket?
You can actually, if you go, not all supermarkets, but usually like Coles will have it. It's like in the butter section, they'll have lard, which is generally pork fat or a mixed fat, and then they'll have grass-fed beef dripping, which is tallow.
Oh, is there grass strip? Okay.
Yeah, but I actually go and buy the suet, which is like the channel fat from around the kidneys of a cow from the butcher, and then I render it and I make my own.
Oh, you make your own?
I make everything. Everything's from scratch.
Oh, hold on. we gotta go down this rabbit hole because I think it's pretty cool when like people go to the effort of doing that sort of stuff because there's like silly things you can do like go and get 2 liters of seawater and then go and turn it into salt. Do you do that?
I don't do that.
Okay, all right.
But I do filter my tap water.
Yeah, well the water filter thing I can appreciate. Like I think a lot of people do that. So when you go to the butcher and how much of this fat are you buying and how much do you get out of it?
I just buy a couple of kilos. I don't really know like how much you get out of it. I get a solid like jar full.
Yeah.
Out of a couple of kilos, you get at least like a big jar. It'll last me for a little while.
You just boil it down, or what do you do?
There's like I've tried a few different methods. But the easiest way that I do at the moment is I just chuck the whole thing into a slow cooker and I just put it on low and I leave it all day and then I come back and I just strain out the like whatever's left.
Oh,
and then
wow.
you've got your melted. Like basically just need to melt the fat.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it in the oven. You can do it like, some people boil it and then they separate the water and the fat. I find that's too much effort.
Yep.
Yeah, but I find the slow cooker is the easiest.
Slow cooker,
So
okay.
just put it on and leave it. Yeah.
And then any other ingredients that you're prepping at home?
Everything. I make everything from scratch. Like I'm always making bone broths and stocks and I make sourdough. So you've got a good sourdough starter going. I make organic rye sourdough. So if we eat bread, we eat real bread. Yeah.
So how long's your starter been going for?
It's been going for a couple of years now.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's good. It's good, robust starter. Yeah. There's things that are on my list to start making that I haven't. I really want to make kimchi.
Kimchi.
Yeah.
Are you doing
I
kombucha?
love like kimchi sauerkraut. I don't make it, buy it.
Okay.
But like that's another one that I could be making from scratch. Yeah. So for more fermented things, I would like to make. It's just about getting the time and the getting in the routine of doing it and like the finesse of
Getting
how
it
to
right.
do it. Yeah, getting it right. Yeah. But otherwise, we eat pretty simply and everything's like good food. Our butcher, so Elvie's Butcher in Leichhardt, they've had this butchery like in the family for generations, I believe, and they still deal with the same farmers like that have been in they had the same farms that have been in their families for generations.
Wow.
And they deal directly with the farms, I believe. So your food isn't going like to an abattoir. It's getting killed. They get the whole body to the butcher and they prepare it. And everything is like grass-fed, grass-finished, which is what most people don't realize as well. Like if you go to Coles and it says grass-fed, like pretty much all Australian beef is grass-fed, but it's been fed like 90 days on grains before. Yeah. So they're all grass-fed, grass-finished, everything beautiful, organic, and it's fresh. It's been killed that week. Yeah, so I get all my meat from there. We don't eat supermarket meat as much as I can avoid it.
What about dairy?
Dairy, yeah. So usually if I get it from the supermarket, we get the Baramba Organics. They have this good, it's unhomogenized. It's still pasteurized, so it's not, ideal. But it's, organic biodynamic. So if I get the supermarket, it's that. But otherwise, I drive out to Penrith and I get raw milk. We have the raw milk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then I'll make, kefir and yogurt and stuff from the raw milk. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So when it comes to, so I think, when it comes to yogurts and things like that, did you start that from like buying a tub of yogurt and then putting some of that yogurt into
When
it? Or how did you start?
So I've done that like later, like I've definitely done that. I've bought like kefirs and then just used the grains from that. But when I first did it, I ordered kefir grains online, and I got a little jar delivered to my house.
Yep.
And then I used those, and I just kept that going for ages.
Wow.
But yeah, then I've also experimented with like buying different brands of kefir
Yep.
and using the grains and like seeing like how the different ones taste and the different ones develop. Yeah.
Yep. That's it's actually pretty cool when you get into it. Like I don't do it because like last time I was given some sourdough starter, like it.
You killed it.
Yeah, didn't last too long, and then I was like, this doesn't look good anymore.
Yeah. I've given sourdough starters to quite a few people, and they always kill them. It makes me sad.
Yeah. Well, it's look, you got the original, like the one that you've got is still going strong. It's just all it's
Howard. Its name's Howard.
It's called Howard.
Yeah, it's called Howard. He's going strong.
How big's the container that he's in?
Oh, it's like it's a big old honey jar, actually. It's been in the same container the whole time.
Yeah.
It's like probably
Just
a
feed him
1
every
litre
few days.
honey jar.
Yep.
I feed him every day. Yeah, especially in this weather when it's hot. You gotta feed it regularly. Yeah.
And then how much how often are you baking?
Every couple of days I make a loaf of bread.
Wow.
Yeah, my family they like bread, and I don't want them to eat crap. So yeah, I make the bread.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's like once you're in the routine of doing it, it's very easy.
Yeah.
I ferment the loaf of bread over 24 to 48 hours, and then it's most of the time it's just sitting there, you know. With sourdoughs, like, I mean, I don't even need them very much, like a tiny little bit of shaping, and then like you just rest them.
And let them puff up
and put in the oven. It's super easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the kefirs and yogurts is also an interesting one, right? Like when people, like, I don't think people really think about it, but like when you sort of understand that it's just all like fermenting, and you just need a little bit of it to then ferment the next round, right?
Yeah, I mean, like the kefir is so easy. You just put the grains in the milk, and then you just leave it.
Yeah, and do you put it back in the fridge?
I just leave it on the bench. Just ferments.
Yep.
And then I will strain it when it's ready, and then I'll put it back in the fridge after I strain it. But yeah, just ferments on the bench.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. It's and it's really good for you too. So.
Yeah. Good. That's where you get your probiotics.
So, how did with Alchemical, right? Did they reach out to you, or did you reach out to them? Like, how did that relationship come about?
They reached out to me, but because we were doing an Australian Girls and Gig comp in Brisbane, and they wanted to get involved and sponsor the comp, and I didn't know about them before that. And Andrew from Alchemical said, you know what, I'll send you a rash guard in the mail, and I'd like, so you know. Like I said, you whenever you're trying to fix stuff, you get rid of things like layer by layer, or you learn layer by layer. And I was at the point where I realized that wearing like polyester is like, it's petrochemicals. You're literally covering yourself in like petrol chemicals. It's not good. And I realized already that was really toxic. And I was at the point of like, I'd like a better alternative to wear, especially when you're training, you're sweating, the pores of your skin are open. Like, you want to be wearing something that's safe, non-toxic. So I knew that was a thing that I needed to fix, but I just didn't have a better option at the time. So I was still wearing all of my just polyester rash guards. And Andrew said, I'll send you a rash guard so you can try it out and you can see what we're about. And I was like, pulled out this bamboo rash guard. I was like, this is it. That's the solution to the training gear.
Yeah.
And then, I just got in contact with him and told him how much I love their stuff and that I really just wanted to wear only their stuff. Which is what I do now. I literally just wear the Alchemical to train.
Yep.
Because it's like, I don't think there's another brand in the world that's like doing what they're doing with their totally non-toxic range of training gear.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think they go from like they actually have their own farms, don't they, or something like that. I think I can't remember if that was them.
I'm not sure if they've got their own farms. Maybe I have to ask them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they do the full process, I think, of like spinning, the hemp fibers and that kind of stuff.
I know it's a big process, and that those guys they put in a lot of effort to make sure that the products are like totally quality and non-toxic, which is really cool. Like, and I'm at the point in life where I don't want to wear the cheap stuff.
Yep.
It's like, I think an Alchemical rash guard retails for like around $80 or something. So it's like, it's not, it might be like $10 more than you might pay at your gym. But I'd rather do that than just go and try and find the cheapest thing I can wear. You know, it's worth, investing in your health. like how many people, get rashes after training and wearing polyester and stuff. You can fix that just by wearing something like that's quality.
It's funny actually now that you bring that up. Like I think my son was doing like, so he's had eczema, and he sometimes will have bouts of eczema, but he's generally okay now. It'll just be like in hot weather and things like that. Like it might pop up. But I remember when he first wore like a soccer uniform and it was like polyester, right? And then it'll be like I'd notice that he'd like rash up straight away. And so then I had to like he'd love to wear it. I'd be like, dude, like let's not wear that because you're gonna get rashes and things like that. Because it's just something obviously interacting with his skin and his skin not liking it. Yeah, and causing a response.
Yeah, totally. That's such a common thing, and they're like, it's literally plastic, and it's not like people think it's like moisture wicking or breathable, but it's not. It's like you're literally putting plastic, like waterproof plastic, on yourself, which is like holding your sweat in. It's not pulling the sweat away from your body, and then it's just like chemicals leaching out of it. It's no good. Yeah.
Are there any other brands or sponsors you need to talk about, or anyone else that you work with on bits and pieces?
Probably, but I can't remember off the top of my head. All right. I always say probably because knowing me, I forgot something. But yeah, I mean, definitely check out Alchemical. They're really changing the game. And you should support. They're in Noosa as well. Australian owned, Australian designed, Australian like everything, and it's amazing. So you should support them and support your health at the same time.
Yeah, we've just before I guess this is probably the last sort of line of things that I want to chat about, but just with the gym Kumite and how this came to be, I'm a bit curious on your perspective of like, obviously you've coached in a few different gyms, right?
Yeah.
So I guess two parts to the question. The first part is what was your experience like, in terms of going to different gyms and getting to see how different people operate and things like that? And are there any good stories that you want to share about that? And then the second part of the question then is what were some of those influences that you guys decided to input into this place?
Yeah. So I've been working in like gym admin and gym management for like 14 years, I think. So, and I've done that at multiple different gyms. I've helped set up like a gym from scratch as well. I've helped like implement and like a lot of different management systems in gyms. And I've just been through heaps of gyms. Then I went to Melbourne and worked at different gyms there. I was at Immersion and Absolute. So I've seen all of the operating systems. I've seen like all the different ways to do it. I've kind of been in one that was more of like a franchise structure. I've been in like ones that are totally opposite and opposed to that. So, I've kind of seen all the ways to do it, or at least most of the ways to do it. And having that experience, I was in like management sort of roles a lot of the time as well. And as me, like the job for like marketing and the job for like running the gym and increasing like sales and student retention's on me. So I've implemented in the past a lot of things, and then I've got to see, all right, that didn't work. That wasn't a great idea. Or that worked really well, So it's been really good because I've kind of like just gathered all of that data over the years. And then by the time we open our own gym, it's like, it's second nature to me. I know might not do the best job at everything, but like I know the ins and outs and I know what not to do definitely in a lot of situations. And a lot of things to do. So it's been really easy for us starting up in that regard. Like we just open, and for me, it just feels like, it's what I've always been doing. So it feels the same.
Yeah. But yeah. Just feels like home.
Just feels like home. Yeah. Uh-huh.
In terms of, and you don't have to name any of the gyms, but I'm just curious about like, whether, what were some of the, maybe like what was the worst, what's the right word? The worst initiative that you might have seen, and maybe what's the best? Like what has been the best initiative that you've seen in a gym? Could even be this one.
I don't know about like worst. I mean, I've seen
something
just
that
a lot
backfired.
of sort of like poor management sort of things happening. Like I'm just trying to think. I don't know if I can think of a specific scenario off the top of my head where something was the worst, but like.
When you say poor management, are you like, what do you think defines poor management in a gym for you?
I mean, well, you just get. It's just going to be like very like my opinion, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about.
So you see like very different approaches to running the gym. You get like the more sort of franchise approach where it's like, we're going to charge maximum for everything. We're going to like joining fees, lock in contracts. We want to make people buy our gears, this and that. And like, I think that can work like kind of short term, like, or at least for like signing up a lot of white belts and stuff, that works. But for me, that's like a poor management style in regards to wanting to build like a good gym or a good training environment that people want to stay at long term. Like generally people will leave those gyms at a certain point. They get put off them, or you're like good seasoned practitioners. They don't want to be part of those sort of setups, you know? So I think like I can see the rationale and I can see the benefit, and I've seen how it works. Like I said, you'll get a lot of beginners and white belts on the mats and it looks nice and it looks great, but you aren't going to get as many people stay through, and you aren't going to create like a very like high level gym, in my opinion. Then I've seen like the approach of like, we're really anti that. We're not going to do any of that. And then we're not going to be like, we're not going to advertise. We're not going to do like a lot of like, we're not going to push the sales. We're not going to do this. And then the gym just doesn't really grow either. Right. So you'll have like a handful of like people on the mat that have been there forever and are like diehard like supporters of the gym, but you don't have like many new people coming in. So, I mean, you kind of see like the polar opposites. So for me, I wouldn't want to go either, and I don't go either of those. You want a quality training environment that people like appreciate. They want to support you. They don't feel pushed. They don't feel like manipulated by money. They don't feel like they have to buy your stuff. You want to create an environment where they want to buy your stuff because they want to support you and you have cool stuff. But at the same time, you're still trying to like market, and you're still trying to like, you know, we are like, if you walk into the gym, I'm 100% going to try and sell you a membership. I assume that you're here because you're interested in jiu-jitsu, and I'm going to step up, and you're probably going to walk out with a membership. Like, I'm a good salesperson, and that's probably what's going to happen. So like taking the like sales initiatives and like learning how to, you know, be pushy where you need to be, but then actually still giving people freedom and flexibility, and making an environment they want to stay at, not they're financially manipulated. That's like my kind of management style. Yeah.
How do you find like, and this is an interesting point to sort of bring up in terms of like finding that balance between having too many lots of new people in the gym versus creating the culture that you want with the existing cohort?
So for us, that's been a very not really an issue. It's been very easy. By the time we opened, we already had 30 plus members, and they were all people that had already done jiu-jitsu. We had a lot of people follow us from different training rooms. So the mat was already very diverse, levels wise, but a lot of experienced people. And we kind of just created, we already had created that culture, through all the training we were already doing in Sydney anyway, and just the networks that we had. So we kind of already started with the culture that we wanted. And we're constantly building on that. But then anybody that just comes in, really fits into that. We didn't do a lot of marketing to new people, especially initially. We're kind of focusing on that a little bit now. But so we never had the thing of heaps of white belts coming in at the same time. Yep. So we've always got one or two new people coming in, and it's kind of easy for them. They just get cared for by the people that are already here, by the more senior students, and they find it very easy to transition in.
Yeah.
So for us, it's it's been a very easy and positive culture that we've built from the start.
Yeah. And this probably doesn't apply to this gym, but I'm just curious about your thoughts on this, because often you'll go to you'll see in a lot of gyms there's little cliques of people, right? Almost like the schoolyard, if you think about it like that. Do you have any thoughts around that, and I guess how what are the best ways to sort of manage that when there's groups of certain individuals that perhaps only training with each other?
Yeah. I've definitely I haven't seen that here, but I've definitely seen that at other gyms before, especially I'm sure the guys have it as well, but I've especially seen that with women's.
Yeah. That's why I'm curious about
these women don't like these women, or this person trains too hard. And then it's I think again, it's parenting, being present. If the coach is present all the time, I think those things become more of an issue when the coach is less present, and you've got maybe different coaches coming in all the time, and you don't kind of have a stable sort of influence on the mat. I always think that culture comes from the top down. So you go in and the environment is generally from the head coach. and like the attitude towards different training partners and like how you treat everybody, I think generally comes down that way. But if you're like on the mat all the time and you kind of like, you're able to talk to people, like if the issues arise, like, I mean, I've had to mediate definitely for like, you know, girls in cliques in gyms before, and it's quite difficult, and you just do the best that you can. Fortunately, we don't have that, like I haven't had that here. Everybody just seems to get on like really well so far. But yeah, I mean, it's like you kind of just like try and be present as a coach, like be very involved with everybody. Like I think it's very important to know everybody's name, greet everybody by name, know a little bit about everybody, like what they do for work, what they're like, you know, why they're here, like if they got a family, this and that, so that you can like, you know, make them feel comfortable and part of the team. And when you have that kind of culture, the cliques don't seem to happen as much. And then I guess when they do come up, you just have to try and like be present and talk to them and mediate as best you can. But yeah.
I think, you know, it's probably something that more comes up, you know, in gyms that may not be as open with their room. Like I think open rooms typically don't lend itself to creating cliques because you've always got people coming in and coming out, right?
I think that's a good point, yeah. Yeah, like we have people visiting us from different gyms every day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we started essentially as a gym. The secret committee was everybody from different gyms coming to train for the benefit of like us all trying to get better at jiu-jitsu for competition. Yeah. Yeah, so we still definitely have that
mentality, yeah. Yeah, because, you know, it's I made the joke to, I probably even said it to me at some point. It's like, you know, I go to G, see you there, go to SWA, see you girls there, come to Kumite, see you girls here. Like it's like you just you're all like bouncing all over the place, and it's cool. It's actually really cool to see.
It's amazing, but it didn't used to be a thing. Yeah. Like literally, remember being like white and blue belt, and it being quite taboo to go and train at other gyms, or having coaches get annoyed at me, or like asking if I can go train at other gyms and not being allowed. But it's like so like 2018 is kind of like when the secret kumite essentially started, when we kind of like a bunch of us like left gyms for various like whatever gym political reasons, and then we're all from different gyms but all training together at open sparring. So that's how that started. But now it's like, you know, there's other people that like we were quite like, I think influential in the jiu-jitsu scene in like encouraging the cross training, because we just invite people to train with us. We're like, this is neutral, come train. But there's other people that have done that as well. Like Kel has always been big on encouraging the cross training and like been very so that's grappling education, being very like opening about that, like opening his doors like that. And you see like, you know, how well his gym has done and like the environment that they have there as well. So now it's like a very common thing. Like a lot of there's obviously like, you know, the more franchise-based gyms don't appreciate the cross training as much, but a lot of your gyms now, it's like kind of the norm. It's like, where are you going to go open mat this weekend, you know? Yeah.
It's well, everybody's checking to see where the open mats are for the Christmas break, right? Like it's one of those ones where it's like, oh, well, you know, classes won't be on, or they might, you know, at certain gyms, and then it's like, okay, where can we go?
Yeah.
I think when, there was like a week before when the old grappling education closed and the new one opened, you know, like they had to close for a week kind of a thing, and so then all the G people were like, oh, where are we going to go? And they're all like looking for where they're going to train that week and looking at the rooms that are open. It's like, okay, we'll go here, we'll go there, go visit a whole bunch of people. But I think that's also part of the how the sport grows. I think I use this analogy when I was talking to Raf from GE in the last episode, and it's like, you think about, you know, bees, you know, going and pollinating, you know, all your flowers and your fruit and things like that. Like they don't just go to one flower and keep going back to the same flower. Like the whole idea is that to get your strawberries and your blueberries and whatever fruit that you want, or even your vegetables like your cucumbers and your zucchinis and pumpkins and all this sort of stuff. Like those bees literally have to go from flower to flower to flower to flower. And like if you don't have like non-fruit bearing plants, like if you don't have like roses or like, you know, actual flowers, they might not be as attracted to come and pollinate the rest of your stuff. So it's like
analogies are funny.
It's a really funny analogy, right? But like when you actually think about it, it's like, well, yeah, like it's actually true, right? Like
well, that's how you do that instead of pollinators. You take techniques, and it's like, oh, this person at this gym is really good at this technique. You take it back to your coach. You're like, show me this. You're like, this is how we get better and better, and help it like just grow. As a community as well. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think I've taken enough of your time. It's an hour and 40 already. But
Good
hope you
chat.
enjoyed it. Like, yeah, was there anything else that you want to talk about by any chance?
Oh, not off the top of my head, but yeah.
Was that all right?
Yeah, it was good.
All right. If people want to find you, how do they find you? It's Hope BJJ.
Hope BJJ on Instagram.
Yep.
That's
Okay.
me.
And then obviously Kumite.
Kumite
And
Jiu-Jitsu.
yeah.
That's
alright.
us.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Johnny.